Everlasting Love by Just Conradical. Chapter 3. After Jake had rebooted BMO, he turned to Finn with the same measured and collected tone of voice he usually used. Okay, brother, before we get into this, can I be sure you aren't pulling a fast one on me at BMO? BMO doesn't like tricks.
Nuh-uh,
the little gaming console said in agreement. Dude, I'm super serious. Super duper serious, Finn said solemnly. You really like Marceline that much? Jake asked. Are you sure? Yes. Brother, are you sure? Yes, Jake, I'm sure. I don't want this to sound disrespectful, but remember, dude, vampires are evil. Evil, Jake said. Marceline isn't. She doesn't even drink blood. Just because her dad kinda wants to eat everybody's soul doesn't mean she does too, protested Finn. What if you turn evil once you're turned? Even if you don't, man, vampires give me the creeps. Jake got uncomfortable just thinking about it. Dude, I'm still gonna be the same old me. I'll just have pale skin, fangs, a thirst for blood, and be immortal. Oh, and maybe never go adventuring again. Finn said the last part quickly and underneath his breath. What? Jake asked. I'm still gonna be the same old, Finn began. No, last part. Oh yeah, I may never be able to go adventuring again, Finn said quietly. What? Jake's stretchy face made him look even more surprised.
Oh,
squeaked BMO, pretending to faint. Yeah, apparently you're not the only guy I knew that doesn't like vampires. Marceline said that not a lot of people would like to be rescued by a vampire. Also, there's the whole sunlight problem. Jake took a few minutes to compose himself before replying. Is this chick really so important to you that you give up adventuring altogether? Jake asked. Yeah, man, I don't know how to describe it. She's just algebraic, Finn said with joy. I know how you feel, man. Same way I feel about Lady, Jake replied with a joyful look in his eyes. And if you feel like that, then who am I to stand in your way? You can make your own decisions. Ah, thank you, man. You're the most mathematical friend a guy could have, Jake. Finn was overjoyed. Yeah, the yellow dog said. I think I might have a solution to your adventuring problem, too. Really? Rhombus, what is it? I'll tell you. I think you should pay Marceline a visit, though. And if you want to spend eternity with her, you might want to give her this. Jake stretched upstairs and came back down with a tiny box in his hand. Jake, are you serious? Mom's ring? I thought you were going to give that to Lady. Lady doesn't have fingers. Oh, yeah. So, what do I even do? Well, brother, you get on one knee, open the case, and ask her to marry you. That sounds pretty stupid, Finn said, confused. Well, that's how it's done, Jake said with a shrug. After listening to Jake's plan regarding adventuring, which was to have Finn tell everyone he helped over the next 2 years about his plan to be turned, so that they weren't afraid of him as a vampire, Finn set off to Marceline's cave and knocked on the door, and Marceline opened it, hovering a few feet off the ground in a pair of jean short shorts and a gray hoodie. Hey there, big guy, what's new? The vampire queen glowed with joy that Finn had never seen before. As he walked through the doorway, Marceline had done a few loops and hovered over the couch, patting the spot beside her as an invitation to sit. Finn sunk into the soft fabric. He had found Marceline a new couch about a year ago to make visits more comfortable. So, did you talk to your yellow friend? Marceline inquired. Yeah, he was completely fine with everything. He said that if I was sure how I felt, I should be able to make my own decisions. You have a kind friend, Finn, Marceline commented. Yeah, Jake's the best, Finn said with a smile. He said that if I felt the same way he did about Lady, then he knew there was nothing he could do to change my mind. Finn noticed Marceline had been looking at him in an odd sort of way. And how do you feel, hero? Marceline asked softly, placing her hand on Finn's face and moving hers closer. I love you. Finn finished his sentence with confidence this time, just as Marceline began to kiss him. This one wasn't like the previous night. It was passionate, and Finn wasn't as shocked when Marceline's forked tongue met Finn's. This time they didn't give a brief hello and goodbye. They chattered for a little while longer, while playing a game of slippery cat and mouse before the couple drew apart. Marceline? Finn said, unsure what to say next. I love you too, hero. Marcy, can we go somewhere? The queen seemed confused, but agreed. Lead the way. The two arrived at an old tree on top of a rolling hill. The stars were bright that night, scattered across the sky in all types of constellations. The two sat on a tree branch near the ground. It sure is beautiful out tonight, Marceline said, looking up to admire the view. Finn seemed uneasy. What did you say before we left the house, Marcy? Finn asked. Lead the way? No, before that. I said I loved you, you goof, Marceline laughed. Just making sure. Finn took a deep breath before stepping off the branch and taking a knee in front of the queen. Finn? Marceline was confused. Marceline, I love you, and I've asked you to spend the rest of eternity with me, which I think is kind of what marriage is all about. Finn pulled a small box out of his pocket. If you love me as much as I love you, you'll see why I want to do this. I want to marry you because you're the most special, beautiful gal in my life. Finn opened the box, revealing a beautiful golden ring with the most breathtaking diamond Marceline had ever seen. It was my mother's, Finn said. Oh, Finn. Of course. Yes, I will. I want to. Marceline shrieked in happiness. We can have our wedding on the day that I turn you. Finn stood up, and the two lovers embraced in the most tender of embraces under the radiant night sky. Chapter 4. When Finn returned to the tree house that evening, Jake was all over him about what had transpired. Hey man, how'd it go? Well, she said yes, Finn replied. Of course she did, dude. When's the wedding? On my 18th birthday, right before she turns me. So, when are you going to tell PB? There was a short pause before Finn replied. Ah, glob it, Finn yelled. I'd completely forgotten about the princess. We had barely even spoken to the princess in the past few months. Finn decided to go and speak with Peoples the next day. As Finn approached the Candy Kingdom the next morning, he started thinking about what had gone wrong between him and the princess. After she had rejected him, he had convinced himself that they wouldn't have worked out anyway, but maybe there was still something that he hadn't seen before. It didn't matter, he convinced himself. He loved Marceline more than he had ever loved anything. When Finn arrived, he was a bit nervous to talk to the princess. Bubblegum and Marceline had never seen eye to eye, and he didn't know how she would take the news of their sudden engagement. When Finn finally found his way to the castle, he had asked the guards where he could find Princess Bubblegum. They told him in her lab, so Finn made his way to the lab and opened the door to find PB working on one of her latest experiments. Hey there, Peebles, Finn said. The princess didn't appear to hear him. Princess? Finn said as he approached the matriarch. PB? Suddenly the princess rolled around. What the stuff, Finn? She was very angry. Where in the name of Glob have you been? Just because I didn't go to dinner with you at your treehouse, you decide never to talk to me again? Dinner? Finn was confused. He suddenly remembered how he had asked PB a few months back, and she had rejected him, saying, Finn, you probably wouldn't understand, but I'm a very busy princess, and it wouldn't work out. Finn had been so sad, and Marceline had been there to comfort him. Yeah, you goof. Why haven't you spoken in so long? I thought you were bonkers about me. You said it wouldn't work out, Finn said, a little unsure what was happening. Of course it wouldn't have worked out. I had a meeting that night, and I was going to call you back and reschedule. Finn was shocked. All this time he had thought the princess didn't have any interest in him, and now she was saying that it was a total misunderstanding? Finn didn't know what to think. He knew that he loved Marceline, but the only reason he ever stopped pursuing the princess was because he had thought she disliked him. Finn didn't know what to do. So, what have you been doing these past months that have kept you too busy to talk to me? Asked the princess. Oh, you know, adventuring and stuff, Finn said, a bit obviously nervous. You're such a terrible liar, PB said, giggling. Tell me, silly. At this point, Finn had to make a decision. Not an easy one either. This decision could determine how he lived out the rest of his life. Should he tell Princess about him and Marceline, now that he knew she might actually have feelings for him? For an answer, Finn thought back to when he had thought Bubblegum had rejected him. Marceline had been there for him, so she had comforted him, saying that the princess was too old, too smart, and, most importantly, too boring for a guy like Finn. Marceline loved him, and he loved her. Was he really going to give that up for a second chance with Bubblegum? Heck no. I've been hanging out with Marceline, Finn said blatantly. Bibi's face went from happy to blank in 1 second. She didn't seem angry, more like she was in disbelief. So, you stopped hanging out with me altogether and started hanging out with that monster? Hey, she's not a monster, Finn yelled, getting very angry. I love her. You what? Yelled Peeb. Yeah, I was coming over here to tell you that we're engaged. The wedding's on my 18th birthday, and during the ceremony she's going to turn me. Finn sighed in relief, happy to get that off his back. But when he looked up, he didn't like what he saw. The princess was very angry, growling. Her face turned red, and she screamed. Guards! Get him out of here! That bitch! Finn was shocked. He had never seen Peebee this angry. He thought that she would be happy for him. After getting kicked out of the Candy Kingdom, Finn was very upset because of what had just transpired. He didn't mean to completely cut off Peebee or stop talking to her. He just never got around to it because he spent all of his time with Marceline. Finn decided he should go up to Marceline's and tell her what happened. Finn arrived at Marceline's house that evening. As the sun was setting, he knocked twice and called, Hey Marceline, it's me. Come on in, the Vampire Queen called back. Finn opened the door to see Marcy, hovering over the couch, eating some strawberries. Marceline sucked the color out of one of her fruits and said, Why so glum, hero? Finn walked over to the couch and sat down before replying. I went to the Candy Kingdom to tell Peebee about our engagement. Oh, Glob, I wish I could have seen the look on that prissy bitch's face when she heard that you wanted me instead of her. Finn still seemed crestfallen. What's the matter, hero? Asked Marcy. Well, just because I love you, Marcy, doesn't mean I don't want to be friends with Peebee. Finn was crestfallen. Hey there, guys, she'll settle down, Marceline said in a soothing voice. It's just a big shock for her right now, but I'm sure she'll calm down soon enough to be happy for you. Finn stopped staring at his lap and looked up at Marceline. I hope you're right, Finn said, perking up. Of course I'm right. Besides, said Marceline with a sly look on her face, even if she does hate you forever, you still get me. She grabbed Finn and kissed him. Finn was a rookie before, he was an expert now. Finn kissed back with tenderness, holding Marcy, and what had begun as a comforting kiss quickly became passionate. Marceline and Finn quickly welcomed a little friendly groping into the scene, and just as things were really starting to heat up, Marceline pulled away gently. She slid off Finn's shirt and stepped out of the black and purple blouse she had been wearing, now just in her bra and panties. Finn was a little dazed at this new experience, and just went with the flow. Marceline then leaned in and said, I didn't think you'd be such a natural. Let's go somewhere else. She picked up the adventure and flew into her bedroom. Finn woke up the next morning in Marceline's house. He got out of bed, put his clothes on, and walked downstairs. His fancy was cooking breakfast, apples for her and bacon and eggs for him. After thanking Marceline for the delicious food, Finn looked at the clock on the wall. JJ Flip, what the zip? Jay's gonna be freaking out. I have to go. Finn looked at Marceline, who seemed a little sad. I'm sorry, Marcy. I'll come back as soon as I can. Marceline smiled and said, You'd better, before planting a kiss on his cheek and waving goodbye. Finn arrived home and walked to the kitchen where Jake was enjoying the bagel. Hey there, playa, Jake said with a smile. Spent the night at Marceline's? Yeah, I guess, Finn said, obviously embarrassed and uncomfortable. He was also a little confused. Jake was always teasing him with dirty jokes, and now, when a joke would actually have been accurate, he didn't say anything about hooking with Marcy. Height, brother, Jake said, returning to his bagel. That's it? No jokes? Nope. They aren't funny if they're obviously true, Jake replied with a wink. Chapter 5. Finn turned red as a tomato before responding to his best friend. So, you're not mad? He inquired with a sheepish look on his face. Of course I'm not mad at you, homie. If anything, I'm proud. That's one pretty dame you scored, Jake said with another one of his trademark winks. What do you mean? Asked Finn, unaware of the significance of the action he had just accomplished was. Don't worry about it, buddy, Jake said. All I'm saying is that it's totally natural and there's nothing to be angry about. Although, there is something you might want to have a talk with Marceline about, Jake said, sounding a little worried. What? Asked Finn, detecting Jake's worry. Did Marceline mention if she was on any type of birth control? Jake said. He had been with Finn as he went through puberty, so teaching him about sex wasn't going to be too hard. What's that? Asked Finn. Well, there can be certain side effects to what you did, Jake explained. Pregnancy, for example. Finn was completely dumbfounded. You mean Marceline's gonna have a baby? Oh my god, I didn't know. I just thought it felt good. Finn was hysteric. Well, not necessarily, Jake interjected. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. But if you don't want a kid, don't take the chance. Use birth control. You should ask Marceline if she's on any. Finn was out the door and on his way to Marceline so fast he didn't even have time to say goodbye to Jake. As Finn made his way over to the cave he had become so familiar with in the passing months, he thought about the changes that have occurred recently. It's spring now, prime time adventuring season. Finn had kept up with his adventuring, and was sure to tell anyone he helped he would be a vampire in a few years. And just because he looked different didn't mean he wasn't just as committed to helping people. The news had been well received all around Ooo. Even if people still were a little shocked and curious, the warm spring air brought changes with it. Finn looked back on the days when he was 13, running through the fields, most of the time adventuring but sometimes just spending careless afternoons with his friends. Finn was amazed those days still persisted as he aged. He still could spend a day outside with Jake, just staring at the clouds. Adventuring was just as interesting as it had been through his entire life. Everything was the same, but everything was changing. In just over a year, he wouldn't be the same. He would be a vampire, married to Marcy, and eating red for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. In just over a year, Finn wouldn't be the same. He would be a vampire, married to Marcy, and eating red for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Would he and Jake still be able to spend time together under the sun? Would anybody even look at them the same way? More importantly, however, would he still feel the same way about Marceline? Finn decided he would. As Finn neared Marceline's cave, he started to think about what it really meant to be a vampire. He could still avenge her, but what about all his friends? They would all die? Finn remained 18 forever. This idea was too much to handle. As Finn rang Marceline's doorbell, he was almost in tears. Back so soon? Marceline asked with a grin. The grin quickly faded, however, as she quickly realized something was wrong. What's wrong, hun? She was very concerned. Jake wanted me to ask you if you're going to be pregnant, Finn said with tears in his eyes. Pregnant? No, I'm on the pill, Marceline said, showing Finn a container filled with small white pills. Is that what you're so upset about? You thought I was pregnant? No, that's not it. I realized on my way over here that all my friends are going to die. I'll never see them again in this life or the next. They'll be with Glob and I'll be down here. Jake, Bubblegum, LSP, Cinnamon Buns, everyone. This comment upset Marceline in a variety of ways. This was exactly how she felt when she first turned. It was a terrible experience, and she hated to see someone she loved feel the same way. Secondly, it meant that Finn might be having second thoughts about being turned. She should have known. She was going to be alone forever. Marceline looked at Finn with tears in her eyes. Finn, if you don't want me to turn you, that's fine. It's okay, really. Marceline looked away and started to cry with the last few words. Marceline, Finn said, I would never go back on that commitment. I love you more than anything in the world, and nothing will ever change that. Even if I lose my friends, I'm sure they'll be fine without me. But the thought of leaving you by yourself is just too much to bear. I'll never leave you, and we'll always have each other. The couple looked into each other's eyes. incredibly strong sense of love that neither of them had experienced before. Just being in each other's presence was enough to comfort them both. Marceline embraced Finn, and the strength in that embrace blocked out all the bad feelings, sadness, self-pity that had accumulated. Just being here in each other's presence was enough to comfort them, and made them remember as long as they had each other, they could never be sad, because she had him, and because he had her.
Chapter 6, Part 1.
Finn's 17th birthday party was approaching quickly. A party had been organized by Jake, and all of Finn's friends had been invited. But one friend had never accepted the invitation. Princess Bubblegum hadn't been the same since Finn told her about his plans for his 18th birthday. Even though Marceline had reassured Finn that it didn't matter, Finn felt bad about his current relationship with PB. He knew he had to set things straight. He didn't want to lose a friend, so that evening he set out to the Candy Kingdom. As Finn arrived at the castle, he was quickly blocked by a pair of guards. "What the zip is going on?" asked Finn. "The princess says we aren't supposed to let you in the castle," one of the guards replied. "We're going to have to ask you to leave." Finn was surprised. He didn't know PB was going to be this angry. He walked away from the main entrance of the castle, but was determined to speak with PB. He ducked behind a wall, climbed through the window, and into the princess's home. Finn made his way up to a laboratory where Princess was usually found. He entered the lab and could see the princess working as usual. Finn approached PB and was very nervous. As he tapped her shoulder, Princess spun around quickly, very confused by the disturbance, but when she saw Finn, her expression changed from surprise to anger. "What the hell? How did you get in? God!" she began before Finn quickly covered her mouth with his hand. "PB, please, I just want to talk." The boy seemed so desperate PB finally calmed down, and Finn took his hand away from her face. "Is this about that bitch?" she asked, crossing her arms. "Well, yeah, not really, kind of," Finn said, scratching the back of his head and sounding very awkward. "Dicer van time scalp was for an I don't know, it's like in German or something." PB began to mutter. "I really wanted to talk about us, though," said Finn. This confused PB, and she stopped muttering to listen. "I know you've never seen eye to eye with Marceline, but you have to accept how I feel, even if you don't like it. I still want to be friends." PB thought about this for a long time before replying. "Okay, Finn," she said. "I can accept that. Even if I don't like it, if I really cared about you, I wouldn't want to ruin our friendship. I'll be at the party." She smiled and gave the overjoyed boy a large hug before seeing him out the door. As soon as Finn was out the door, her smile was replaced by a dark look that she had worn for so long since Finn's new. "I'll be at the party, Finn, all right," she said before locking herself in the lab. Finn was happy as ever on the day of his birthday. Everything seemed to be going so well. All of his friends were there, including PB. Even his bride-to-be looked happy under the sun umbrella. Everything was going great. Finn looked around and saw many of his friends covering the roof of the tree house. Finn approached Jake with a huge smile on his face. "This is the best rooftop birthday party ever!" Finn exclaimed. Jake could tell he was elated. All of Finn's friends were dancing, laughing, and having a great time. Jake even noticed that PB was present. She was at the refreshment stands getting some punch. Finn and Jake both felt taps on their shoulders and turned around to find Lady Rainicorn and Marcy both expecting dances. As the party went on, nobody noticed Princess Bubblegum slip a small green tablet into a cup of punch. "Hey, Finn!" PB called as he finished his dance. "Want some punch?"